Hey, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. As always, I'm joined by Dom.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. No Jordan this week, so it's going to be a two-man podcast, as he would call it, a fireside groove. So let's hop into what we've been playing. I got some good news and I got some bad news, Dom.
Oh, God. You didn't finish Wolfenstein, huh?
I didn't finish it, but I did play it. That's the good news is I played it. The bad news is I haven't finished it yet. I actually didn't have a whole lot of time to play video games at all, but the little bit of time that I did have, you were on my shoulder. You were the angel on my shoulder saying, or maybe the devil. I don't know what you is. But yeah, it's like you have a little bit of time, play Wolfenstein. So I did. I barely had any time at all to game this week. I had a lot of stuff to do, but I did get past the. Because I think last time we talked, I had stated that I began the area with the not sewers, but like the subway with the alligators and stuff. Yeah, I finished that that area down there. So I don't know necessarily what's after that, because once I got out, I paused it and saved and stuff. So I didn't get it as far as I wanted to, but I did play it. It was the first thing on my to play list. I didn't play any PUBG this week. I didn't play any Monster Hunter. I didn't play any Celeste. It was the only thing I played, but I didn't play a lot of it, unfortunately. But what was the other thing I was going to talk about? Oh, so I've been doing the thing that a lot of other people have been doing, where I've been rewatching the MCU movies leading up to Infinity War, just to get hyped for it. And I'm personally doing my own thing. Like, whenever I finish a movie, I'm ranking it for my own personal tastes, and I have a little docket that I'm keeping just because I thought I would be interested in knowing, for me, which ones I enjoyed the most. And yeah, I'm having a blast so far. Most of the movies are exactly where I remember liking them. There's only a couple that I enjoy it a lot more now. One of those being Iron Man 2. I like a lot more now than I liked the first time I watched it. And man,
I like that one. Both Iron Man movies.
Well, there's three
really
of them.
Yeah, I've only seen the two, but yeah, I like both of those.
The third one is probably my favorite out of the three, because it deals with his Tony Stark's PTSD post the Avengers, and him kind of facing his death and stuff like that. And I really like that movie because it gives consequence to what they actually do for once. And the entire movie is him dealing with PTSD. It's pretty crazy, some of the stuff he talks about and has to deal with, and it shows the terrible ramifications of doing what he does. And I really enjoy it. Thor: Dark World, just as bad as I remember. Easily and far beyond the worst Marvel movie. Oh God, it's so bad. It is so bad. It sucks. It was even Idris Elba and I always forget his name, Anthony Hopkins, the guy who plays Odin, and even Tom Hiddleston as Loki had great performances, but it's just so bad. You can tell that Natalie Portman just didn't want to be a part of it anymore, since they fired Patty Jenkins from directing it and they got somebody else. It's a mess of a movie. It is, I would say it's worse than Suicide Squad. Hands down.
Suicide Squad's not terrible.
Well, no. I know. But the way people talk about Suicide Squad, they're like, Suicide Squad is awful. And it's I would venture to say that none of the DC movies are even close to as bad as Thor: Dark World. It is awful. It is. Anyways, I don't want to go on a super long tangent, but yeah, I've been watching through that. The next movie on my list is Winter Soldier, which, looking back on, was my favorite Marvel movie, so I'm interested to see if that holds up, because Black Panther right now is number one. But I loved Winter Soldier the first time I saw it, so I'm excited to do that. I've also been reading some comics. I'm through 4 issues on All New Wolverine, which is X-23, which is the little girl in, obviously, Logan. And I've been reading... Have you heard of Southern Bastards, Dom?
Not the comic, but...
Yeah. So Southern Bastards, from what I understand and what I've read, I could be wrong about this, but from the first comic, this is what I understand, and from conjecture between people, is it's about this guy going back to the small Texas city that he grew up in, where his dad was the sheriff, and his dad died, and when his dad died, he I don't know if it's him and his mom, they haven't made it clear, but he left that city, right? And he grew up elsewhere. He hasn't been back for 40 years. He comes back, and he notices some weird things about the city. There's this weird boss guy's name on a lot of the stores and stuff around the town, and it just seems like it's more decrepit than it was when he left. And he comes to see this old townie that tells him, get out, you need to get out. And from his perspective, it seems like the guy's just being an a-hole and telling him like, you're not wanted here, you're not one of us, you left, why would you ever come back? But as you come to learn, it's the guy kind of warning him in his own way of like, you need to get out, like it's bad here, right? Without saying it. And you come to find out that like the coach of the high school football team basically runs the town, and he has like cronies and henchmen everywhere, and he rules through like politics and drugs and stuff like that. And his dad, the main character's dad, was known for using this big oak stick to beat the hell out of people, criminals.
Yeah, of course.
During this whole story, his dad's grave is next to the house, and he's there to gather the stuff from his dad's house to take it back to his home. That's the whole reason he's back in the city. And the stick that his dad used to use, they buried it in the backyard next to his grave, and it grew into a giant oak tree. And basically, at the end of the first issue, it's him coming to realize all of the things wrong with the city he used to grow up in. And he gets a chainsaw and cuts down the tree and makes his own stick. So it's kind of like him following in his dad's footsteps, kind of. And it seems like that's going to be the main point of contention, is him against this boss character who I don't know yet. But the art style is really cool. It's really graphic. It reminds me a lot of the Walking Dead comics or Preacher, which haven't read, but I've seen comic panels from. So I'm definitely enjoying that. And then Comixology had a huge sale. They had a bunch of volumes and series on sale for like 99 cents. So I ended up picking up the Vision series, Secret Wars, which is the series where Captain America was a Hydra agent the whole time. A bunch of really cool, interesting series. I even picked up Kingdom Come from DC and Batgirl by Burnside. So definitely intrigued in some comic books. That's pretty much it for me. Like I said, unfortunately, I didn't finish Wolfenstein, but it was the only thing. Wolfenstein 2, it's the only thing I played this week. So, what about you?
I only played Persona 4.
You weeb. You weeaboo.
Yeah, that was it. Quite a bit, too. I mean, a good portion. I don't know. I think I'm starting to... I need to take a break, probably. Starting to wear out on it. Played a lot of that in a short amount of time, and it's just starting to get a little bit redundant, I think, because the story is really, really interesting, and like I've said before, the characters are interesting, and talking to them is also interesting. How many more times can I say interesting in one interesting sentence? But the story is told slowly, I guess. It relies really heavily on the interactions with the characters and meeting new people. The actual like crime you're trying to solve is like, I'm barely anywhere, and then trying to actually solve it, even though I played I think like 15 hours or something. I'm hardly anywhere further. It's like you get like tiny pieces of evidence after every couple hours. It's kind of ridiculous, but I mean that's the nature of it, I guess. So I just need to take a short break on it, I think, before I get too burned out. But that's it, man. That's all I played. And as far as like, what have we been watching? Oh, This Is Us. It doesn't really fit the theme of this podcast, but that's.
I want to get into it, man. Everything everybody talks about that show. It's so great, and I need to get.
It really is.
Yeah.
And honestly, pretty much universally, I can't think of anyone who wouldn't like it that I wouldn't recommend it to. You know what I mean? It's one of those.
Yeah. It relates to everyone on some level because it's just like such good writing and stuff.
Exactly. But you know what I never did mention? I'll bring it up now. I don't know if you ever watched Shameless, but we were into that, and we finished that up. I think it was 2 weeks ago now, but we finished up at least season 8. I think is the latest. That show is really fucking cool. That I won't say too much. I don't know how much you know about it, but I might have talked about it before. But otherwise, that's it. I didn't watch any movies or anything. Yeah, I don't know. Slow week, a lot of working.
Well, in terms of the next couple of weeks, you're not getting Sea of Thieves. You're not getting Ni no Kuni 2, I would assume. Are you getting Far Cry 5?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. We'll see. Because I want to start playing Kingdom Hearts again. I never got back to it. But I do have time before 3 comes out. Actually, probably a lot of time.
Do you own the Banner Saga?
No.
That's a
game. I remember you talking about it, though.
Yeah, that's a game I want to get back to, man. I keep thinking about it. But, like, obviously, Wolfenstein 2 is my priority. But, like, that's the next thing, like, when I go back to a game. I'm picking up Sea of Thieves through Gamecast. I'm gonna get Far Cry 5, and then later on down the line, either end of this year or next year, I'll definitely get around to Ni no Kuni 2, because by then I'll own a PS4. But yeah,
that one I'm curious about, because I watched a little bit of gameplay, and it looks cool. Like, the art style is really, really cool. But the combat, just, I don't know, it looks kind of slow and plodding and, I don't know, clunky. But I gotta look more into it before I make any final judgments.
For that game, I think the hook is the characters in the world, not so much the combat. Like, the combat's probably intriguing enough, and it seems like there's enough systems in there to make it interesting to a certain extent, but I don't think that's the hook of the game, you know? Mm-hmm. I think the hook is the characters in the world and stuff.
But then it's like, I don't know, I got a vibe, because the last one, correct me if I'm wrong, was turn-based. I think maybe, I mean, if my very, very prejudgments have any credence, then maybe they should have stuck to the turn-based aspect of it instead of it. I don't know. Just a word of caution that I have so far, I guess. But we'll see.
Yeah. But then that's the whole argument, right, of like fans who love the first game, because I played about 5 hours of it and I really enjoyed it. Fans who love the first game, right, and they play the second game, it's like, well, you'll either get the argument of like, oh, this is just like the same combat from the first game, or in this instance, oh, they should have kept the combat from the first game. And for me, obviously, you want the best game there can be, but for me, I would much rather see them take a risk with something new than consistently do the same thing over and over again, right? Like, what if they tried being like, we'll do turn-based again. Are there any new ideas we can do? Not really. The that type of combat's kind of played out. What if we tried this other thing and there's a couple of new neat ideas? I would much rather have that. It might not work, but
yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely, it's definitely better to try, different things. That doesn't guarantee it's going to work.
Or be good. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or be good. But you're right, though. We have to appreciate innovation even when it fails, right? Like, otherwise we'd be doing the same things over and over again, playing the same game. So, yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, Nintendo's a perfect example of that.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, for every home run, you have strikeouts. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
Let's hop into the news. Last week we talked about when Jordan was on. It's a shame Jordan is on this week because this is a total Jordan story. We got that weird cryptic tweet from CD Projekt Red saying, what if Geralt wasn't just in Witcher? What if he was in a different game? And we're like, oh, that'd be crazy if it was Smash. It's probably Monster Hunter or Soul Calibur. Turns out it's Soul Calibur. We got the announcement on the official Soul Calibur Twitter. It states, a legendary warrior enters the stage of history. White Wolf, Butcher of Blaviken. The Witcher, he bears many names, but you know him as Geralt of Rivia. Wield his steel and silver swords on the stage of Kaer Morhen and use his signs wisely to take down all who defy you. So it seems like they really integrated a lot of the mechanics from the Witcher series, which is really cool. The map they showed seems like it's a Witcher map, which is really cool. I'm not a huge Soul Calibur guy, but to be quite honest, him being a cameo character is really cool to me. It definitely gets me more interested than I was before. What about you? Does this move the needle for Soul Calibur at all, or do you just think
slightly?
Cool? Yeah,
slightly. I mean, I'd have to look more into it. I remember I don't even know which Soul Calibur it was, but when they brought in like Yoda and Link, and it was a big deal.
I think that's 4.
Yeah,
I think that's 4,
that's what they have to do, right? I mean, clearly, if you look back at Injustice, right, like that grabbed a lot of people that were into DC but not fighting games, right? So
yeah,
same strategy, but to a much lesser extent here. But yeah, if they want to start pulling in different people, that's the way to do it. Yeah, get Geralt in there. I'm trying to think who else might be a good draw. But does this move the needle? A tiny bit. But it's still way down there. So
I would really love if we're gonna get a man, I'm drawing a blank here. Help me out here. Praise the Sun.
Solaire
would be cool.
Astora.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or generic Dark Souls guy.
Yeah. That's the one problem with Dark Souls, and we talked about it. But yeah, last week when we were talking about Smash and who might come in, it's like, yeah, you could bring in. Same thing with Fallout 2, actually. When anything where the character is kind of nameless and it's kind of abstract, like the main character in a lot of games, especially a lot of games I like now that I think about it. Yeah, you don't have like a main character.
Dude, I would love, sorry to interrupt you. Some games have the character swap where it's like it's 2 characters, but it's 1 character you pick at the character select.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
I would love like an Ornstein and Smough thing. Or like there's
yeah.
trade-offs because like if you bring in Smaug, he's slower, more methodical, but he does more damage, so he's a heavier based fighter. Whereas Ornstein's more of the speed guy, the jabby guy. You know, that would be really cool. Because Dark Souls doesn't. Besides Solaire, a lot of the bosses don't fit into a fighting game. But there are guys like Ornstein and Smaug. I forget the name of the guys from Dark Souls 3. That's a bunch of them. What are they called? You know, the guys with the pointy hats. They like fight each other. You like walk up on them and they're fighting each other, and then they fight you.
The Abyss Watchers.
The Abyss Watchers, yeah. There's some pretty iconic, or even the Dragon Lord. What's his name? Dragon Slayer.
That's Ornstein, Dragon Slayer.
Well, yeah, he becomes Dragon Slayer, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, it's really cool to see Geralt in another game. We're probably not getting Witcher 4. It seems like they've been pretty strict about that. The way Cyberpunk 2077 is shaping up, I think that's their next big franchise. But we're all going to get Geralt in the Netflix series, so we're going to be seeing a lot of him.
Apparently coming along.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if the Castlevania thing, which I haven't had a chance to watch, which is high on my watch list, if that shows the care that they put into this stuff, you know, Netflix puts out a lot of originals, but the more high, I don't want to say high caliber, what's the word I'm looking for? Of high note, like, you know, like the more popular things they tackle, they seem to do it pretty well. It's when they get experimental and create new shows and stuff, that's where it's like a 50-50. You get Stranger Things or you get some show that no one watched. But it seems like when they're tackling these more mainline, more popular subjects, they seem to hit it out of the park, so I'm excited about that. I guess partially in some Jordan news as well, because he likes Kingdom Hearts so much and Square Enix. Looks like Final Fantasy VII Remake is right where we assumed it would be. There was a recent posting that states that they're hiring for core members of the team. This game was originally being outsourced and developed by CyberConnect, but Square Enix decided to move it back in-house because they felt that the quality wasn't meeting the standards they wanted and the development pipeline wasn't exactly where they wanted it to be. Does this surprise you, Dom, that Final Fantasy VII Remake is hiring core developers at this point?
This is all... I mean, it's a Square Enix thing, but these are the reasons, like, just don't announce your game so far ahead. Like, this is all shit that we should never really know about, right? Because now it taints it. It's like, oh, well, fuck it. It's gone. It's out of my mind. Who knows when it's coming? It's in development hell, as we always like to say. But if we never knew this was even happening, then I don't know. I just don't like the strategy that they take with a lot of their games, but that's just me.
Yeah. Look how long we waited for Final Fantasy 15 and it came out to
exactly.
Like,
yeah. Well, I didn't even say like I think it was probably at least good.
Yeah, but critically and like it wasn't great. Like for a game to take that long, it didn't move the needle in any dramatic way. So it's like
great.
It
was never gonna be. I mean, it couldn't be great. Just because expectations were so high, it had been too long. You know what I mean? It just wasn't going to be. Even if it was worthy of that, it just was never... It had just been too long. It's, there's just some things like... I don't want to hear about it. Bad example, or like reused example, but we always talk about Half-Life 3, like if it just pops out one day. Because maybe... I think Valve the other day said, oh, we're going back to working on games or whatever.
The Dota card game Artifact is their first re-entry into publishing games and making games, they said.
Yeah, right. But I mean, point being, imagine if like in a month or a few months or something, they're just like, oh yeah, Half-Life 3 is out in a couple days or whatever
Box
it is.
2? God.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, and we didn't even know that it was being worked on, and you know what I mean? Maybe it had been through that development hell and it just took that long. But if we're none the wiser, ignorance is bliss.
Exactly.
And I think that Square Enix could, I don't know, hopefully use a little bit of that advice, but Lord knows they can't hear me.
Well, that's the funny thing is that Square Enix owns Tomb Raider, and we'll get to that later. And that one, though they've held off from announcing it for so long, it's been leaked a bunch of times. And that's what's interesting about the Avengers partnership, too, is like, people are talking about E3 and getting hyped up for, like, what are we going to see? Are we going to see the Avengers game? People are like, this game's probably like a year and a half to 2 years out. Are we going to see it that early?
That's exactly why we'll see it.
Exactly. It's like, it's Square Enix. So, chances are, they want to get the hype train rolling as soon as possible. But Final Fantasy VII Remake is interesting for me personally because I've never been involved in the Final Fantasy franchise, but 7 is the one that intrigued me the most. It's the one that almost got me to rent it from Blockbuster, dated reference. But this remake looks cool, so when it does come out, if it does come out, part 1 or whatever it happens being, I'll be really interested to see what the price point is, and it might get me to jump in because a lot of the people I respect and just love their opinions on things, a lot of them say that 7's their favorite in the very long franchise that is Final Fantasy, so very interested.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, that's kind of the one that I would be most likely to jump in on because maybe it's just me, but when I think of Final Fantasy, I think of Cloud, and the giant thick sword.
Yeah, I think of him and Lightning, who's the pink-haired girl that's in all the Easy Allies videos in that cutout. Those are the only two characters.
Yep. Yeah, those because there's lots of different characters across the Final Fantasy games, obviously, but those are Cloud, especially for me. That's who sticks out. And I think 7. While most people might not say it's the best, I think I don't know. It has the most notoriety. Is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but
yeah, most clout maybe.
Clout. Well, yeah, with a T, not a.
Yeah, most clout. Yeah, there's a pun there. Somebody make that tweet. Next news story here. This one is a bit of a rumor, but it carries a tiny bit of weight to it. So, giant grain of salt here. Reddit user Badass, but it's a 4 instead of the first A, posted on Reddit saying that Spyro the Dragon Treasure Trilogy, talk about a tongue twister, will be announced on March 16th at 1 p.m. PST. Though these videos go out on Sundays, the podcast goes out on Sundays. We're recording this beforehand, so this is the day after we're recording. It's basically saying it's going to be posted tomorrow. And the reason this holds a little bit of weight is this is the same Reddit user who correctly leaked the day that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 was going to be revealed to the public. Makes sense. Activision owns both of those properties, so if he's the guy that's going to get it correct, if somebody's going to get it correct, it's going to be him. Treasure Trilogy. Interesting title. I'm excited for this. As we've talked about before, I love Spyro the Dragon. I think Crash Insane Trilogy is a better title just because it's a lot shorter. But Spyro the Dragon Treasure Trilogy kind of gets to the point. Do you expect this to be announced, Dom? And if so, are you interested in this?
Yeah, this will probably be... I would guess that this rumor or this leak, whatever, is probably true. I am interested. I never played the Spyro games.
Okay.
I think I may have tried one once at a friend's house for a little bit. Whereas Crash Bandicoot I had played and hated vehemently.
Yeah.
But Spyro kind of always I was kind of appealing, but I just never had an opportunity. It never came. When you're a kid, it's not like you can just go and play any game you want, right?
Exactly,
it's kind of games kind of have to come to you to some extent when you're not able to just walk to the store and have money to buy things, But I'm moderately interested, but I would be more so if it was on Switch myself.
Well, it probably will come to Switch next year or the year after it's released. Yeah.
Yep. So that's probably where I'll be with this. Is just wait if it gets decent reviews, I guess. I mean, not even that though, because I just want to actually see the gameplay myself because I can't remember it well enough to know. So I'll just I'm waiting.
Well, the interesting thing is Spyro is closely tied to PlayStation, but it wasn't the mascot that Crash was. So I'd be interested to see if Sony pays out as well for the exclusivity for a year. Because Crash makes a whole lot of sense, and though Spyro is closely related to PlayStation as well, he wasn't the mascot. He wasn't the guy in the commercials, And because Spyro has become so much more of a thing after those exclusive titles with Skylanders and stuff, I wonder if Activision would even be down with making it exclusive for a year, Who knows?
Yeah, I think it'd be worth it. You're right, it definitely doesn't hold the same clout as Crash Bandicoot, but it's something, right? It's Spyro, and as we've learned recently in the past few years, nostalgia is super powerful. So,
dude, nostalgia affects wallets very strongly.
Right, I mean, and you have something like Horizon, a new IP that, obviously does really well, but something like Crash can, cost you a lot less, and not do as well as Horizon. Might be close in actually volume, but not as in revenue. But that nostalgia just fuels shit, man.
Yeah. Well, so the crazy thing is, like, Spyro, though you didn't play it, obviously it's a 3D platformer, and it's very, I wouldn't say it's like Banjo-Kazooie or Donkey Kong Country levels of Collectathon. Like, I think those are on another level, but it is more of a Collectathon-y 3D platformer. It's just, I think it's a very cathartic and relaxing game. Crash is a very difficult and I think seemingly annoying game. I love Crash, but it is what it is. Spyro's more about just having a good time with these like quirky characters and just running around, and it's a very more calm, like easily paced game. It reminds me a lot of did you ever play the Emperor's New Groove video game? No. Kind of the same kind of style a little bit. Very weird reference. But yeah, Spyro's very relaxing. It's really cool. It's a game I could definitely see people playing with their significant others who aren't really into video games. It's just very colorful, very bright. Depending on who's doing this remake, it's probably going to look great. Because Crash looks phenomenal. So I'm interested to see what the price point is too if they stick to that. Because Crash was $30, right?
30. Oh shit, you might be right. Yeah, 30 or 40.
Yeah, it was 30 or 40, yeah. So I'm interested to see if they keep the same price point.
How about this? Do people like the character of Crash Bandicoot? Because when I look at that character, I'm like, first of all, what the fuck is that? It's wearing jeans. It's ugly. I don't like it. Why has he got a big-ass mouth? It pisses me off, kind of.
Yeah.
And I'm just being really harsh and honest with you, but it just, ugh. Whereas Spyro the Dragon looks like, at least in the old gameplay, he just kind of looks like a stuffed animal the way he moves. Obviously, that can get better, but I don't know. He's a little more likable looking character to me. Just putting that out there.
He's Spyro definitely as a character reads more as like the tough little gritty underdog kid that you want to cheer for.
Yeah.
Whereas
Crash is like just an asshole.
Yeah, just an annoying dude that like.
Yeah.
He'd be in Jackass, or he'd be the dude that like gets too drunk and like takes a dump on your kitchen table or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shits on the coats.
Exactly. I'm excited for Spyro, man.
Cook.
I love Spyro. I want to see how beautiful this game looks, because there's a couple of key moments, especially in the first game, that I remember in my mind, and I don't remember them very well in terms of like looking great. I remember the polygons, so I want to see the retouched textures and how beautiful it looks, man. So cool. People can shit on remasters all they want, but taking something you have a lot of nostalgia for and bringing it to the modern era and making it look beautiful is really cool. It's one of the coolest things we get to see as gamers in 2018. I
agree, man. I don't have a problem. I mean, if there's a demand for it, it's going to happen, and that's cool that companies are, specifically when they're remaking stuff, adding textures like that's. I think that's awesome.
And it's not taking away from the current games, right? Like the Crash thing didn't take away from what Naughty Dog's doing. Who cares? Yeah. Awesome. I love remasters. We have some interesting news. This doesn't have, this is a bigger grain of salt than the Spyro news. There was a listing, by accident it seems, on the Amazon's Canadian website for Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell 2018. Obviously, this is from Ubisoft. Didn't have any platforms listed, didn't have a price, didn't have a cover art, nothing. It was just a placeholder item listing. I really don't see any validity to this. It could be true, it could be not. What I wanted to do is take this as a jumping off point to talk about, if we do get a Splinter Cell in 2018, let's say this is true, what do we want from it? Do we enjoy Splinter Cell? I guess I'll go first. I have an on and off again relationship with that sentence, much less Splinter Cell. I really like the games, but they're not something that I went out of my way to purchase like every installment. It's not like, oh, the new Splinter Cell's out, I need to get it. But whenever I did get my hands on one, I really enjoyed it. Considering Assassin's Creed has moved away from a lot of the stealth aspects of its gameplay, I really want something more stealth driven. It's going to be a while. I don't think we'll ever get another AAA Hitman, right? We're going to get the smaller things the last one that we saw. So it'd be really cool to see a shooter with hardcore stealth mechanics. People want open world. I don't. I'm just cool with linear level design. Just let me, kind of like what Hitman did a little bit, where it's like, give me this like building and let me tackle it however I want. That'd be really dope. Yeah. So
open
just
levels or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Here's this skyscraper building, maybe not a skyscraper, obviously a certain section of floors or whatever, or this manor or this mansion. Tackle it how you want to. The replayability through the roof. I'm trying to remember what's the title of the last Splinter Cell that everyone loved? Was it Conviction? I'm trying to remember.
Sounds right. Yeah. Or
the
Dark something.
the last Splinter Cell title was Blacklist, but I don't think
Blacklist.
that's the one that's beloved. I think the Conviction or whatever was the one that people really loved. Yeah, but that's it for me. Like, I'd be interested in the Splinter Cell. I want to see what it offers. If it is super into the stealth and gives me those set pieces to figure out on my own with the replayability, I'm in. If it does something weird or like goes open world or something, I'm probably going to be a hard out, honestly. Especially if it comes out this fall alongside like Red Dead and stuff. Not the same type of game, but like too many open worlds at one time definitely is not great for me. What about you, though? Your ties to Splinter Cell?
Never played any of them even for a moment.
Oh, okay.
That being said, I'll throw in there that when you pointed out that, yeah, recent Assassin's Creed games have kind of started to venture away from their, more some of the stealth mechanics a little bit, or at least, they don't force it on you, things like that.
Yeah.
So, I'll agree with you that it would be cool if a Splinter Cell came out and was purely a stealth game, as they all are, I assume. I mean, you probably can't just go running in Call of Duty style in these games, but I think you're right. There's not really been anything with a huge emphasis like this is just stealth, and that's just what it is.
Well, that's triple A either. Like
triple A.
Yeah.
I mean, you have like Arkham Knight was mostly, or at least a large part of it was emphasis on stealth and gadgets and stuff.
What was
otherwise,
2015?
Yeah, it's a couple years ago. So otherwise, can you think of anything?
Hitman's the closest thing, and that's not a AAA game. Excellent game,
Hitman,
but it's not AAA. Yeah. And
that one less reliant on like gadgets too, right?
No, it has a high reliance. There's a ton of gadgets you can use.
Hitman, okay, all right.
Yeah, ton of tools, ton of really cool things. It's with Splinter Cell. I would be intrigued to see because Ubisoft has done a great job with Rainbow Six Siege. We've seen with our last two guests, they're into it. One of them, Alex, kind of fell out of first-person shooters, and he's into it. Blessing, I've never pegged that guy for a first-person shooter guy, and he's playing it, and it's had such a long life. I would be really interested to see if Splinter Cell does double down on stealth, and their updates over the course of the next couple of years after post-release are giving us new set pieces to tackle and have the replayability. That's going to be really cool. It
seems to me like this is kind of like they just have to not screw it up, it seems like. And they can at least find some success, right? Like you said, I think they should not take too many risks. Just make a really, really, really good and engaging, more linear style game. Yeah, I think like this is easy money. I don't want to say that, but yeah, they could do this, and I hadn't thought about it. But I think it's a good time. Maybe not this fall in particular, or middle of November or something, but it's been a minute. Yeah, we could use some like hard stealth shit going on.
This would be a great like August September game. I would love if it was August September. I think the thing too is I highly doubt it'll be open world considering we have the Division 2 on the horizon also from Ubisoft. I doubt they'd want two big open world games like that. So if I was a betting man, it's going to be linear more than likely. Obviously it'll have multiplayer mode, but what I want is that Hitman style. Here's a plot of land with a giant ass building, get the job done. There's optional objectives you can do, right? Oh man, that'd be super cool. Like they can sell me so hard on this at E3 or whenever they decide to show this to us. And like you said, if they just don't screw it up, you know what I mean?
And you know what? Like, I can't believe we didn't think of it. I can't believe I didn't think of it. We were just brainstorming. What stealth games have we had recently? And then when you just described what you want out of these levels, I'm like, wow, that's Dishonored, right?
Yeah, Dishonored, yeah.
Just without the magic.
The worst part is that kind of says a lot about why the game hasn't sold so well. People don't remember that often. And it sucks because those games are so well made, but I guess more realistic stealth, right? Because that isn't based in reality. Dishonored is definitely its own fantasy world.
Yeah, yep. Yeah. And it's first person, which is
exactly,
especially for a stealth game, that's a very different experience.
I wonder if Michael Ironside, the guy who's famous for voicing Sam Fisher, is going to return and voice him. That'd be crazy. Like if at E3, and you'd recognize Michael Ironside's voice if you heard him, Dom.
I think I can already think of it. I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, like if it pops up, you hear the bzz, like the green light. And then you hear his voice, people will lose their minds. It would fit perfectly at Xbox too. The green? Kidding me? Because it's even a bigger fake out, because if they see the green, they're like, oh, what is this, the Xbox, only on Xbox thing? Or they won't know what the intro is exactly, you know what I mean? Because it's the green, and then it's Splinter Cell. That'd be dope.
And what if, and actually here, let me throw this at you too. Timed exclusive on Xbox, something like that? Or maybe just a pure exclusive on Xbox.
I mean,
it's possible, right? Why not?
We're going to be talking about something later on that could prove that it could be the case. Interesting thing too, I guess we'll save that for the end story, because I was going to say something, but I want to save it for the end story. Next thing, speaking of Xbox exclusives, this one isn't going to be anymore, but we're getting the new Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which has been leaked forever. It's coming out a week before my birthday. I wanted to make this news story all about myself. No, September 14th, 2018. Good release date, I think, for the game. Or before a lot of major titles, which it needed to do. Did you manage to catch the teaser by chance, Dom?
No, I did not. I didn't.
It's non-gameplay. It's just sweeping shots of a forest, and like Laura's back to the camera looking over a waterfall, and like all of these like tension building hype things. Gave us the release date September 14th. Gave us the reveal date of April 27th, which in my opinion is terrible in terms of news cycle. That's when Avengers: Infinity War comes out. So chances of getting on like general news sites, you're not going to be nowhere near the top in terms of SEO. And obviously, we talked about this before the show. That day was probably set months in advance, right, for the studio to get the demo reveal done and all of the moving parts. And then once they saw Avengers: Infinity War move up a week, they're like, really? Come on. You know,
fuck you guys.
Exactly. This is good, though, because remember that Crystal Dynamics is working on that Avengers project, and the guys, help me out, the studio behind Deus Ex, what is their name?
Deus Ex. I mean, it's Square Enix. Oh, man, I don't know. What the
Eidos
studio
Montreal.
is called.
Eidos Montreal, there we go.
Yep.
Eidos Montreal is working on apparently a Guardians game or something. Either way, they both have put in work on this, and it's good to see this come out, because this means that this game's done, and then they can shift focus on the Avengers game and all those projects. I haven't played the second one. I didn't play Rise of the Tomb Raider. You said you hadn't either. It's on Game Pass. I'm picking up Game Pass for Sea of Thieves. That's probably going to be a game I tackle next after the Wolfenstein 2 and stuff. Yeah. Is Rise of the Tomb Raider. I definitely want to play it. Yeah.
After
Wolfenstein 2.
Man, Wolfenstein 2 is a short game. I think 8 hours for that campaign. And that's all you really need to do. I mean, there's some side stuff that might be cool. Although, the DLC looks pretty rad, too, and I kind of want to go back and do that. But anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah. Like I said, it wasn't because a lack of interest. I had no time this week. So, anyways, Tomb Raider. I'm very interested in this game. I really enjoyed the reboot. Tomb Raider from 2013, I really liked it. I don't know if you did.
It was cool. I liked it a lot, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't play Rise of the Tomb Raider, and people say that one, it's a better game than the first one. So I'm excited to get into that.
I've heard both. Like, some people like it more, some people like it less.
Yeah. I guess the people I value their opinions, they're the ones that are saying, for the most part, it's better than the first one. So I definitely want to tackle that. Shadow of the Tomb Raider still has me interested. Like I said, great release date. If this was October, November, it's probably a pass for me at launch. Now that it's early September, depending on what we hear at E3 and stuff, it might be between this and Splinter Cell that I'm choosing to buy day one. But yeah, I'm very interested in this game. I can't wait to see more. It's a shame that the reveal is happening the same day as Infinity War, but it is what it is. We'll know about it because we have a weekly podcast, but I do think it'll get buried, unfortunately, with that weekend.
Doesn't that feel kind of like some time travel? Like, what video game do I want to play this fall? Splinter Cell or Tomb Raider?
You're right.
Did we go back a decade? Right.
Exactly. Oh man, that's crazy. But yeah, still Call of Duty and Battlefield, so we don't know if we did go back. Yeah, interesting release date. Like I said, September 14th, great date. Anything to add, Dom, before we move on?
Nah.
Speaking of release dates, this happened, I think, a day after last week's podcast was recorded. Days Gone has been delayed to 2019. Dun, dun, dun. The move that nobody saw coming.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Cough, cough. I've talked about this game at nauseum on the podcast, saying, where's Days Gone? That game's not coming out this year. It's easily the one that's going to get delayed, and it did get delayed. Yeah, we had this conversation off the air, Dom, and it was I brought up the point to you and Jordan of this, and it's not a something I came up with. Everyone's saying it. If this game comes out anywhere near Last of Us Part 2, it's dead. And you made the rebuttal, I don't think that matters. I think it just doesn't have a lot of hype behind it either way,
Yeah.
It might
just be that much worse.
Either way. Exactly.
Yeah.
You are interested in the game, though, and I think there's promising parts of this game that look good. I think the timing of it is awful because we're already... I don't want to say the zombie culture, but we're already getting to this point where Walking Dead is waning on people in general, and this definitely has the Walking Dead-ish vibes in terms of a post-apocalyptic world. I think if this would have hit maybe 4 years ago in Walking Dead's zeitgeist, I think it would have done fantastic. I think now that we're kind of coming over the hill on the Walking Dead, and it's kind of everything's waning, I think that's why people are lacking interest in it, because it reads so much as Walking Dead. Obviously, it's its own thing. I'm not trying to paint it with a broad brush, but do you think this game needed the delay?
Well, technically, probably, yeah. They're probably not anywhere near done with it.
Yeah, but from your opinion, public perception, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Sony has enough going on this year anyway with their exclusives. So this, I mean, like you said, everyone really saw this coming because it didn't even really get an official release date. I think there was one interview with one guy who said, oh, probably let it kind of almost slip. Yeah, it's a 2018 game, and they never really backed that up. None of the Sony heads ever truly backed that up that I recall. But technically, this is a delay then. But yeah, I think it's better off getting pushed into next year anyway. But then my thing was, I don't think Last of Us 2 hits next year at all either. So yeah, I don't think that's going to end up being a problem. That would hurt it. That's definitely an accurate assessment. And then that's kind of a struggle for Sony to market. Even if one came out in January and the other in November, it's still, it would hurt Days Gone more than anything, or more than Last of Us, of course. But this is probably overall better for Days Gone to get pushed, and in the meantime, Sony's got to figure out what they want to do with this game, I guess. Because I will say, I had kind of gotten sick of people saying, do we really need another zombie game? Zombies are in everything. Zombie. It's so annoying. But, it kept selling, right? So, I think, but you brought up a good point that The Walking Dead viewership is finally starting to decline. Finally. Yeah. At least this year it did, right? I think it started to a little bit last year, but now it's actually starting to slightly decline. So now I think that's a good indicator, a good tracking mechanism of now people are starting to get sick of zombies. It hasn't happened literally until this past year, I think, where we're starting to see that burn out a little bit.
Well, and it could also be due to the fact that there's an argument for the quality of the show going down, which could not be necessarily related to zombies. But because the game, Last of Us is a zombie-esque game, but nowhere in tone does it feel like Walking Dead. I think it feels like its own thing. And that could just be speaking in hindsight because I played the first Last of Us. But with Days Gone, it definitely reads more as, oh, this is Walking Dead-ish, Definitely can draw that comparison. So, I don't know. We'll see. As far as release dates, so we have God of War, right? We have Beyond, or Detroit Become Human. I always want to say Beyond Human. We have Dreams sometime this year, we assume, and Spider-Man sometime this year, we assume.
Dreams, to be honest, I would bet that gets pushed. The only other I only assume Spider-Man will certainly be this year. That's about it.
Then that means next year, possibility of Last of Us Part 2, but I'm with you. I don't think it hits next year. We have Death Stranding not happening next year.
Nope.
Ghost of Tsushima, I think, might be their big release next year.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then that leaves that and Days Gone, right? Am I missing anything else? As far as big AAA exclusives?
There's the stuff we don't know about also,
possibly
right?
That Crash game? Possibly that new Crash game?
Crash game?
Yeah, there was rumors that they're working... Sony greenlit
Crash Bandicoot.
Individual Crash Bandicoot game, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking more like Bloodborne 2, a Demon Souls remaster. That's not on the same conversation, really, but I'm beat pumped for that.
Yeah, I really don't think Shadows Die Twice is Bloodborne 2, though.
Well, even if it's not, that doesn't necessarily eliminate the possibility of Bloodborne 2 also happening.
Yeah, it's just... I don't want Bloodborne 2 from somebody who's not from.
Well, again, might decrease the likelihood if that Shadows Die Twice trailer is something else.
Yeah.
But that could still be from working on Bloodborne 2. Could still be happening.
The only 100% guarantee that we know for a fact is that Hidetaka Miyazaki will not be directing Bloodborne 2, if there is one, because he's not directing any Souls-type games. So, that's the one. He said it, man. He said he wasn't going to direct Dark Souls 2, and he didn't. And that speaks for itself. So, we'll see.
Did he say he won't do... I thought he said he was done with Dark Souls.
No, he said Souls-like games. He's done with Souls-like games.
Okay. All right.
I could be wrong, though. It could be Dark Souls in general. You could have me on that. But I'm pretty sure he said Souls games, which technically doesn't include Bloodborne. So you might be right. I might be wrong. Either way.
Well, we could both be... It's the semantics of it. Who knows what he meant.
Exactly.
And it was translated, so, yeah.
Bloodborne 2 could be a big release. But if Bloodborne 2 doesn't happen... I mean,
right.
Days Gone and Ghost of Tsushima, those are vastly different games. And if those come out in the air, then Days Gone, they could put some marketing behind it and make it a tentpole for themselves, you know? So, who knows?
I mean, that would, to me, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good solid 2019. And then sprinkle in some other thing. They usually have little, some other exclusive, smaller stuff, more Japanese stuff. They tend to have, like this year they had a Yakuza and... I don't know.
It could possibly be another Nier game. A Nier sequel.
Yeah, a Nier.
Yeah.
Probably not a Persona thing, at least not exclusive to them.
Yeah.
But, they'll probably have smaller stuff.
Something.
As well. But yeah, Days Gone and Ghost of Tsushima as kind of like the two heavy hitters. Yeah, I could see that.
And probably maybe a God of War DLC or something. A big expansion.
Yeah. In the meantime, announce a PS5. Who knows? Whatever.
Well, just a little announcement. Speaking of Demon Souls, though, Bluepoint Games has confirmed that its next project in the wake of Shadow of the Colossus remake, which I definitely is a game I'm going to pick up. The remake is a game I'm going to pick up when I have my PS4. They had an interview with Digital Foundry, and they said that its next game is another remake. And their quote specifically is, when they were asked by Digital Foundry if they're going to be working on an original game. And they said, well, we could, but we're doing another remake. Their president and co-founder, Marco Thrush, stated, this project served as a great point of growing the art team to the point where we can take on a full AAA major scope of art content. So now our next step is let's improve the art pipeline, let's improve the engine, let's improve workflow for artists, let's work on the art side some more to handle our next project because it's a bit bigger. And our next focus is, all right, let's work on design and add new stuff to get the next remake, because now that can be our sole focus of making sure that's where we put the time in everybody else.
Sole focus.
Yeah, sole focus. They're already at a level where we can perform. This is interesting because everyone wants Bluepoint to make their own game, but it seems like their president's like, we'll eventually do that, but we still want to work on making sure that when we do take that risk, we know what the hell we're doing, right? He says he wants to get the art pipeline better and improved, and they just want to work on mainlining and streamlining everything. It's weird because he says a AAA game with a major scope, but then he says it's a little bit bigger than their last game. Demon Souls, I would say, is a little bit bigger than Shadow of the Colossus. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a full AAA major scope. So those two things kind of contradict one another in my opinion. It would be cool if it's a Demon Souls. That's a big rumor now that they're working on a Demon Souls remake. We've kind of seen rumblings, the server going down. We've seen some trademark renewals and stuff. The other assumption is that EA pointed at these people to make the Mass Effect Trilogy remaster.
Could be, yeah.
Because Bluepoint's arguably the best in the business at this. I don't even know if there's...
Well, I mean, you made a point, I think, before we started the show. Like, this could be anything, right? Mass Effect. This could be like Fire Emblem Awakening ported to Switch. It could be anything, right?
Yeah. We assume it's a decently sized game, though, because they made a point to say AAA major scope, but who knows? Also, they're
platform-wise,
not Sony-owned. That's one misconception. Exactly. People think, like, oh, it's definitely Demon Souls because, they're owned by Sony. Bluepoint is independent. They just have a lot of contracts with Sony. And people have been saying that Sony needs to put a ring on it, which they should if they were smart, because Bluepoint's fantastic. Not necessarily speaking about what we think it is. What would you want? Do you want Demon Souls the most?
100%, because I'd never played that game.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, even though it was the beginning of everything, it's dealing with a lot of issues, and it'd be really cool if we see a Dark Souls remaster, which we're seeing, and the Demon Souls, right? The oldest ones in the series getting brought anew. I think Demon Souls would be cool. As a Mass Effect fan, I want the Mass Effect trilogy thing to be true. That's probably my number one. Obviously, that'll probably happen, but for it to be from Bluepoint would make me so happy because they know how to handle it with care and respect. But yeah, this could be anything. We could sit here and name 500 games. Yeah, so Demon's Souls and Mass Effect are the ones we want. Hopefully it's one of those. If not, it will probably be another game we have too much nostalgia for and we'll pay too much for. Let's get to the topic of the show. Earlier we talked about exclusives, and we talked about what Xbox is going to be doing. They announced that they're going to be having their press conference on Sunday again, but this time at 2 p.m. Eastern, or 1 p.m. Pacific time. Sorry, I got that completely wrong. 1 p.m. Pacific time, so 2 p.m. Mountain, which is my personal time, and which is 4 p.m. Eastern time. This is really great for them. This means that they're before everyone else, we assume. I mean, there could be somebody that goes on Saturday for once or something, but usually this means that they're going to be the first people to show off their press conference, which means that Ubisoft and Bethesda and EA, we could see their games first at Microsoft's press conference, which would be really cool. The thing that I want to talk about is they announced that they're going to be showing it at the Microsoft Theater across the street from the Los Angeles Convention Center. They're moving their entire gameplay stations and all that stuff to their own Microsoft Theater. They're still going to have a mixer booth and stuff inside of the LA Convention Center, but they kind of want to host their own thing. What I appreciate is yeah, they are moving to do their own thing, but it's cool that it's right across the street, right? You don't have to Uber across the city. It makes it very easy for people covering the show and for fans going. Before we hop into the other rumor news bit, Dom, what do you think about them moving to the Microsoft Theater and kind of running their own thing across the street?
What do I think of it? Not much. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's a big deal. One of the big three moving out of the LA Convention Center, right, to do their own thing.
Yeah, and we can go and have this conversation. Is E3 changing and evolving the industry? Whatever. It's... Yeah, I mean, it's changing. It is a big change. It's just, from our point of view, I think it's they're still going to show us some awesome shit that they've been doing, right?
Yeah.
At that time of year. So I don't know. To me, it doesn't affect me much, I guess. So
I don't think this is a big deal. I think this is no different than Nintendo having their own direct that they upload online. They don't have they have a presence at E3, but they don't have a conference on stage there.
Exactly.
I think it's just these companies figure out what they specifically want to do. I think them moving their conference isn't huge. I think them moving all of their booths and stuff is, but I think it's a positive thing because for me it feels like when you're in those places where there's it's infamous for having the hallway of PlayStation and Xbox. I think that starts to grow a lot of vitriol and a lot of unnecessary and unwanted hate. If you have all of the games in Microsoft's theater, I think it gives a very positive vibe to everything, right? Everyone who's in there is there to experience Xbox and have a good time and see what's new. And there's not this right across the hallway, yada, 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 And there'll still be conjecture, but I do like them having an Xbox space for everything Microsoft, right? I think it's really cool.
Yeah, the flip side of that, and I'm not necessarily saying this is what happened, but the flip side of that is, someone who went there to look at, to play, we'll say Last of Us Part 2, and that's all they really went there to see, they're no longer going to see whatever Microsoft might be offering, right? Whereas if they was on the other side of the hall, then they might be like, dude, Crackdown? What is that? That looks kind of cool. And then go and check it out. And you know what I mean? So they lose some of that cross-marketing, but then the other side is, they also get focused marketing on who comes there. So it's, I don't know.
But I mean, knowing Microsoft though, they're going to have, it's right across the street. They're going to have a way for people to know that they're right across the street.
Oh yeah. A big come inside arrow or something.
Exactly. I don't think it's a huge crazy move as people are saying.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as EA 2 where they have the EA Play in a separate location. It's right across the street. Walk over. Get yourself a little bit of exercise. A nice little brisk walk. The part of this that I wanted to talk about though is this happened this morning as of recording. This guy posted on Twitter and on Reddit, and the response is what made this very interesting. So I'm going to read through this real quick. This is from his perspective. I have a friend who works for Microsoft down in Washington. He told me that the company is divided into divisions, such as their business side, their cloud computing, Xbox, and something else. Apparently, he said an entire division of Microsoft is now dedicated solely to games. The acquisition of them, the development of them, and the publishing them. Not a division of Xbox, an entire division of Microsoft, the company itself. Language. I was bitching to him one day about how I thought Xbox seriously lacks right now in exclusives compared to Sony, and he told me about this specific endeavor. Apparently, they've been legit serious about solving that issue for a couple of years now and are gearing up to drop a bomb at E3 when it comes to dealing with the lack of games. I don't know if much of this is true, but it would make sense to me that a company like Microsoft, as big as they are, is well aware of their shortfalls and shortcomings and are aiming to do something about it quick. I don't know if what he said is true or if it's just common knowledge, but the scale and size of this endeavor was news to me when I first heard of it. So I'm just relaying this to all of you, I guess. I'm personally excited because the only way for them to go from here is up. I'm sure this E3 2018, Xbox will really blow people away. Cool, great statement, right? Who knows if it's true, what the hell, whatever. My cousin at Nintendo. But, interestingly enough, Major Nelson himself, Mr. Xbox Community, replied and said, go on, ... He didn't need to reply to this Reddit post. He didn't need to say anything. Very interesting. The way he worded that says a lot without saying a lot. It's kind of like him leading on of like, go on. You know, like, keep selling what we're planning to do, right? It could be just a nice little prod, but don't you think that somebody who's as closely tied to Xbox, if this wasn't the case, or if they weren't planning to solve this lack of games issue, he wouldn't even reply then, right? I would assume. So
right, but it's also, of course, it's true. I mean, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
Of course, what this person is saying is true, whether or not their source is real and the actual, line of communication there is true. Who the heck knows? Probably not. Maybe. Who knows? But yeah, obviously Microsoft is going to want to try to blow people away with all the games they're going to show. Like, of course that's true, right? So, I mean, whether or not this kid is telling the truth of where he heard it or whatever, to me is kind of irrelevant. But you're right. So getting that reply, though, to me, it could, of course, it could be just a marketing thing. Like, he's just trying to bring attention. Like, oh, hey, check out this Reddit post. Like, shit's going down this year. Well, so he's raising the hype a little bit, and I think it's going to work. It just depends on whether or not they deliver. But the other problem is, especially with something like E3, it's so subjective. Where like, even between like me, you, and Jordan, we all come out like we thought so and so had the best conference, and then the other one is like, oh God, no, right? So. It's just, I don't know, it feeds into that silly thing of like, their E3 was awesome and theirs wasn't. I don't know. But obviously I think, Microsoft is going to try to do the best they can and with what they have. And probably it's going to be pretty cool. I mean, I would bet. Let me put it this way. I've been rambling on. This shows they have confidence. Yeah. A lot of confidence. I'll leave it at that.
Well, the crazy thing is, people complain that they had a lack of games. Last year they came out and had game after game after game after game.
Tons of games, yeah.
Yeah, and you might not be interested in all of them, but that's not the approach that they go for. It's like a shotgun approach. They blast all of these games at you, and you pick out the ones you're interested in. Even though they had a great E3 showing, the complaint was still, where are the exclusives? Where are the big AAA games? Where are the big AAA Xbox exclusives? I think this is the year where they show that, where they'll still have the quantity of like the indie games, but like, oh, this game is exclusive, or this game, or this game. I think he wouldn't have replied back if it wasn't for some purpose, obviously. I think it's more so, it does go into that argument of like, who had the best E3 showing. For me, that's like all conjecture or whatever. I like to see that like companies improve from the weak points they had. So for me, it's like, oh, they fixed their problem that everyone perceived they had, right? And Microsoft is a huge company. Like, Sony's big. Microsoft is one of the largest companies in the world. Yep. And they are known for finding the weaknesses they have and cutting them off, right? There was a huge problem with toxic culture at Microsoft. It's been reported. There was a report that came out a couple of days ago, too, adding on to this. Phil Spencer talked about it at his presentation. And basically, they had a very bad company culture from 2013 to 2016. Oddly enough, it's crazy that Xbox kind of seemed to flounder during those years, right? The announcement of the Xbox One, all of that stuff. Since 2016, the culture's completely changed. People have said it's a completely different space. If this report is to be believed, that's 2 years, right, of them focusing on that. It seems like 2 years ago was their reboot for their company culture, as well as, hey, Xbox, we were doing so well with 360. What the hell went wrong, right? Because they're looking at the numbers and they're like, we were the leader, and though it doesn't quote unquote mean anything, it's still a cool thing to brag about, right? As a company being like the industry leader, and I think that's where they're like, we did so well with 360. What went wrong? What happened, right? And I think they promoted Phil Spencer, and they're like, what do we need to do to fix this? And he's like, well, I really think we need to focus on getting first-party games that we make in-house. Get a branch of that to Xbox to get stronger. And they're like, we can do more than that. And that's why it's a branch of Microsoft, right? Games development. That also lends to the fact that they aren't necessarily tied to just Xbox. They want to deliver games on PC as well. So there's no point to label it under Xbox if it's a Microsoft platform, right? It's interesting. It's really cool. I think all of the big three are in an interesting position. Nintendo has Smash, but what's the big new game? Like, I'm assuming this, if Smash is a port, what's the big new game? How is their online service going to do? How are they going to roll that out? Are we ever going to see Virtual Console, right? They have their questions. Xbox is the first-party questions, obviously. PlayStation, they kind of don't have to do a whole lot, you would assume, because they have so many games that we already know about that they can just show off again. But I mean, people did kind of hit them with the lack of variety in terms of what they showcased. People felt that they showed a lot of good games in their pre-show and they could have been part of their actual show. People want more user features. The biggest knock against PlayStation is they have the games, but where are the services that benefit their consumers? What's their response to Game Pass, right? They have a lot of questions in the air too, even though they're the industry leader. There's rumors that we're going to see the PS5 this year, which I think are highly blasphemous and exaggerated. I do not see that happening this year at all.
Nope.
But yeah, they're all in an interesting position. I think they all have their own weaknesses they need to fix, and I think that's great. I think it's boring when we go into E3 and it's like, all of them are doing great, or all of them. I would love if just all of them are doing great, period. But I like that each of them have their own individual weakness that they have to deal with, because we're not going into each of their shows expecting them to fix the same thing that the other ones are. And I think that leaves it to all of us getting a happier message at the end of their conferences, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just rambling.
Yeah. And then on top of that, too, it's like, yeah, they want to fix their weaknesses, show more of this, do more of that. But then that's also like, these are also perceived weaknesses, right?
Perceived, yep, exactly.
Like in our echo chamber, a lot of people might be saying this, the Sony doesn't have enough. Or actually, you guys showed like these cool indie games on the pre-show, but not, you know what I mean? I heard that a lot, but I feel like they probably will do that same exact thing again.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because I mean, what our corner of the internet says doesn't necessarily reflect the whole market all the time. Sometimes it can be, it can echo, the whole thing, but, so you also got to think into that too, right? But then what's also cool is especially nowadays, I feel like all the big three they each kind of have their own things going on, right? The Switch is, I mean, Nintendo is goofy and different as always. They have the Switch, and now even, who knows, maybe they might go deeper into Labo or Labo, whatever cardboard nonsense is. Maybe they do something new entirely, some new peripheral, and then PlayStation always pushes VR pretty big during their show, and now Xbox is like, dude, they actually might have the most revolutionary thing of all here in these services, and what that evolves into. To me, that's where I see Xbox is going to change everything entirely. Yeah. This is, I think, what they're pushing towards is going to be enormous. Like, we're going to, in my opinion, in a decade from now, it's going to be like movies, where you don't really buy movies much anymore, and we're streaming. I think that's kind of the future, and I think Xbox is probably going to lead the way, it seems like. PlayStation's sort of stumbling with PS Now, though they still have that infrastructure set up, so who knows?
That infrastructure is nowhere near what we've experienced so far with Xbox, right?
Well, for the streaming side of it, it's presumably way past it. We also don't know. We know Xbox is working on their streaming service, but we don't know what that looks like. But I also have more confidence in them because they're Microsoft.
Yeah.
In that sort of thing. But PlayStation has been working on theirs, for presumably a little bit longer. But we'll see. I mean, they both have that. I don't know. To me, it's just so obvious that that's the future, and I don't know. That's what's exciting to me.
It's cool
good
because
or bad, I don't know.
It's if you're looking at it from like on the movie industry perspective, PlayStation as it sits right now is Hollywood. They have their big blockbuster tentpoles, right, and they're dominating, right, because they have the big AAA releases that are exclusive. To me, Xbox is Netflix, right? User features, getting users to the things easier. They have some hits and misses when they come out with things, and Nintendo is like the indie film movement of like A24 and stuff like that, where like they're not seen as like the big Hollywood boys, but they make a lot of hits, right? And they know what they're doing, and they make some weird choices sometimes, but they're still successful. I think they all are in an interesting place, and I'm glad that they're all doing their own thing. Xbox's failure sucks. Failure. I'm putting that in quotation.
Right.
Not failing.
It's hard to even call it
but
that. Yeah, exactly.
I'll say they're stumbling. I'll rephrase it. They're stumbling out of the gate. I think was the most beneficial thing for them, because who knows if people would have caught on to the whole TV aspect and the entertainment in a box, where would we be sitting at right now?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think Phil Spencer was great for Xbox, and the only reason he got that position is because of their stumbling. It's very weird. We're gonna see where we go, but I'm excited for E3 and I'm excited for Xbox in particular. Let's get into what we're gonna be playing. Wolfenstein 2, number 1 on my list. Monster Hunter World, I have 2 Elder Dragons I need to face, because I got to the point of the story where you need to kill these 3 individual Elder Dragons to move on, and I'm kind of near the end of the story, but they're very hard, and the Dark Souls player in me, the sadistic masochist in me,
do it, finish it,
doesn't want to get help, because I can easily call on buddies to help me finish them, but I'm like, no, I want to do this. The weapon I'm using, not to get too convoluted, is one of the hardest weapons to use solo. So I'm having a tougher time than if I went like dual blades or something that puts out a lot of DPS. I definitely want to get back into the Breach, as well as what's the game I brought up earlier, Dom? I'm brain farting, that I said you should play, and you said, yeah, I remember you talking about it.
Banner Saga.
Banner Saga. For some reason I wanted to say Brawlhalla. I've never even played that game. Banner Saga. I need to watch Captain America Winter Soldier. Well, I don't need to, but I'm going to. That's the next one on my list. And after I finish the MCU watch-along, rewatch, whatever it is, I'm kind of thinking about going back and rewatching Harry Potter. Because it's been so long since I rewatched those movies that I'm like,
never watched them.
You've never watched the Harry Potter movies?
Nope, never read the books, nothing.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Not my thing.
Yeah. It's between Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings is what I tackle next. And those 7 movies and those 3 movies are about the same length, so it's about the same time commitment. Interesting. You didn't play Stardew Valley, right?
No. I'm curious about it, though. Looking at it.
The next game from that developer got a title, and it's Stardew Valley meets Harry Potter, which I know you're a hard out on because it doesn't seem like you're into Harry Potter. But it's called Witchbrook, which looks really cool. So
I saw that.
Yeah, they did Harvest Moon, and now they're doing more of a Harry Potter thing, which I think Witchbrook might end up selling more than Stardew Valley in the long run if they do go with the Harry Potter vibes. Because if people latch onto that, man, that community's huge. It's pretty much it for me. Nothing crazy. I watched Annihilation, but I'll talk about it with Jordan when he gets back. And that's pretty much it for me. What about you?
Pretty much just Kingdom Hearts I want to get to. Like I said, I'm going to take a break on Persona.
Yeah.
And then probably I need to get back to watching Clone Wars. Nice.
Did you ever watch Batman Gotham by Gaslight or whatever?
No, I did not. Jordan did.
Yeah.
But,
no. What's your opinion, real quick? What's your opinion on Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing Batman?
Oh, absolutely. In Flashpoint? Fuck yeah. Like, I want that. Yeah. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening to episode 92. Catch us next week when we talk about more video game news. We'll possibly be talking about the Spyro remaster, if that ends up being announced, and a bunch of other stuff. We'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one.